Welcome back to stage 2 of the Mirage GT build video series. In this video, we're going to be installing our electrical system. As usual, a full list of the torque settings to accompany this video can be found on our website using the link in the description below. Now that our wheels and spline adapters have been fitted to our chassis, we're going to start installing our electrical system. For the purpose of this video, we're going to temporarily refit our front subframe, as this will enable us to establish the full layout of our wiring loom. Be sure to attach this loosely for now, as we will need to remove it again in our next video when we install our engine and gearbox. All of our factory-built cars come with an integrated alarm and immobilizer, so some aspects of this video may not be applicable to self-builds. To assist with the installation, each branch of our wiring loom is individually labelled, and this can be verified with the aid of our electrical connection manual, which can also be found on our website using the link in the description below. First, we're going to place our full wiring loom in the passenger footwell. And starting with the 3 largest dash plugs, we're going to gently feed our wiring loom through our pre-drilled hole and grommet that leads towards the engine bay. An extra pair of hands may be useful at this stage to ease and speed up the process. Once all of our wiring loom has been fed through, we can now secure our fuse box and alarm immobilizer box to the chassis using the bolts provided. With our fuse box securely in place, we now need to separate our front and rear looms. The front loom can now be installed along the front of the chassis and secured in place using the pre-fitted cable ties. As we locate and fix our front loom to the chassis, we need to separate the various connections according to the electrical connection manual. Ensure that the brake switch, radiator and air conditioning fan cables are secured horizontally along the front of our chassis. We're going to use the first 2 cable ties to secure all 3 of these connections, before feeding the radiator and air conditioning looms underneath our chassis. The brake switch connection can now be connected as shown. It's important to remember that we will be removing the front subframe in our next video, so these remaining front loom connections should only be secured in place once our engine and gearbox have been fitted. Before we start to secure our rear wiring loom, we're going to install our battery components. Our battery tray is installed at the rear of the chassis on the left hand side, using the 2 battery tray supports as indicated. When fitting the battery, be sure that the positive terminal is facing forwards and the negative terminal towards the rear of the chassis. The battery can now be secured in place using the 2 battery clamps provided. Next up is our earth strap and battery clamp. Be sure to connect the earth cable underneath the battery tray support, as this will allow for the best possible earth connection. With our battery and tray now in place, we can continue to thread our rear loom through the remainder of the chassis and secure it in place using the pre-installed cable ties. Let's have a closer look at the remaining sections of our loom. With our wiring loom now in position, it's time to secure our main battery cable to the chassis. We're going to use some additional cable ties to hold this in place. Once the first section of our battery cable is secure, it's advisable to temporarily disconnect the connection to the battery. This will prevent the battery from short-circuiting should the cable happen to come in contact with the chassis whilst we fit the remainder of the battery cable. Our battery cable follows the same route along the chassis as our wiring loom and will be connected to the starter motor in a later video. With our battery cable and wiring loom now in place, we can now move on to installing the engine and gearbox.